If you spray air freshener in a room, the people closest to you smell it right away. But wait a few minutes, and that scent travels all the way to the back wall. This happens because of a basic rule of physics. Particles naturally move from an area where they are highly concentrated, crowded together, to an area of lower concentration, where they have more space. They will keep spreading out until they are evenly distributed. It is an entirely automatic process, like a ball rolling down a hill. It requires absolutely zero energy to happen. The universe is constantly trying to drive particles towards the state of equal distribution, known as equilibrium. But for biological life to exist, that perfect balance is actually a problem. Life requires a strict, controlled defiance of equilibrium. To see how that defiance works, we have to shrink down to the microscopic architecture of the cell membrane. This outer surface acts as a highly selective barrier. On the outside, you have the chaotic, fluctuating environment of the human body. On the inside, a tightly regulated environment where specific chemical conditions must be maintained. The cell is in a constant, desperate state of exchange. It has to continuously pull in essential nutrients like oxygen and water, while simultaneously expelling toxic waste products like carbon dioxide. To survive this massive traffic jam of molecules trying to cross the boundary, the cell has to act as a master gatekeeper. It strategically decides exactly when to let the natural laws of physics take their course and when it needs to fight them. When the cell lets nature do the work, it uses passive transport. This allows specific molecules to simply ride their natural concentration gradient, moving from high to low concentration straight into or out of the cell. For certain materials, this is incredibly easy. Very small, uncharged molecules like oxygen and carbon dioxide effortlessly phase directly through the lipid layer of the membrane in a process called simple diffusion. This diagram illustrates osmosis. A dashed line represents a semi-permeable membrane with water moving across. Larger yellow shapes are solutes, too big to cross. Because solutes can't move, water flows to the crowded side until the proportion is equal. By relying on these completely free mechanisms, the cell maintains critical baseline stability, like internal water balance and turgor pressure, without spending a single drop of its own energy resources, zero ATP. But the lipid bilayer has a physical limitation. If a molecule is too large or carries an electrical charge, it can't slip through. It bounces right off the cell's outer wall. To solve this, the cell uses facilitated diffusion. The membrane is embedded with specialized proteins that act as open molecular tunnels, giving these difficult substances a clear path across the boundary. Even though these larger molecules require a custom-built protein tunnel to pass, they are still just sliding down their natural concentration gradient. The movement remains completely passive and entirely free, zero ATP. Passive transport is a brilliant way to capture nature's free ride, but it poses a serious problem for survival. What happens when the cell is already full of a nutrient it needs but has to hoard even more? Or when it has to push a molecule out straight against the natural flow of traffic? To push molecules backwards from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration, the cell relies on primary active transport. Because this directly fights the physical pull of equilibrium, the cell can't do it for free. It has to pay a toll, spending its core energy currency, a molecule known as ATP. In the sodium-potassium pump, a unit of ATP hits the protein, physically changing its shape. It forcefully ejects 3 sodium squares out of the cell while simultaneously pulling 2 potassium triangles inside, creating a massive concentration imbalance on the outside. By spending ATP to force these ions up their gradients, the cell intentionally creates a severe chemical tension. Without that carefully constructed imbalance, our nerves couldn't transmit impulses and our muscles couldn't contract. Generating that ATP is expensive, So the cell has developed an economic trick called secondary active transport, or co-transport. To recycle energy from the primary pumps, the massive sodium buildup outside creates a biological waterfall rushing back in. A symporter protein harnesses that rushing physical force to simultaneously drag a molecule like glucose into the cell against its own gradient. Cellular transport is a tightly regulated dual-engine system. By balancing the free natural flow of passive transport with the forceful energy-driven push of active transport, the cell sustains the exact chemical imbalance that defines life itself.